Thank you for joining us on Newsweek as we highlight the top stories we followed in the last 7 days. Now, disabled, dissolved and disbanded are the words that perfectly fits on the epitaph of a unit that has grown to become a symbol of brutality for young people across Nigeria. It is the end of an era for the Special Anti-robbery Squad, founded in 1992 after days of outrage over human rights violations by the police subunit across the country. Rotimi Akeredolu has been re-elected to lead the people of Ondo State for another 4-year term. And later on the show, we will take a look at the outcome, with observers commending the electoral umpire for conducting a largely peaceful exercise. So what next after the dissolution of SARS? Who takes up the role of combating violent crimes? Well, these are some of the questions Nigerians are asking following the announcement by the Inspector General of Police ending SARS. Sifon SCN reports.
The journey started years back on Twitter and gained traction on other social media platforms with various hashtags. Prominent among them is #EndSARS, condemning police brutality and demanding an end to the Special Anti-robbery Squad. Several attempts in the last 3 years to reform SARS didn't pull through. Recent campaigns online and on the streets in several cities in Nigeria against the police squad attracted some international attention and brought the police authorities under immense pressure. That pressure finally paid off on Sunday afternoon as Inspector General of Police announced the dissolution of the Special Anti-robbery Squad, which was established in 1992 to tackle violent crimes.
The Special Anti-robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved across all formations, the 36 state police commands, and the Federal Capital Territory, where they currently exist. 2. All officers and men currently serving in the unit are to be deployed with immediate effect.
He says a new strategy will be worked out to fill in the role the dissolved squad had been playing.
New policing arrangements to address the offenses of armed robbery and other violent crimes that fall within the mandate of the dissolved Special Anti-robbery Squad shall be presented in due course.
The decision is cheering news to the campaigners against SARS, but elsewhere the reactions are varied.
Sometimes you will think that being a policeman gives you all the knowledge of law and order. No. Sometimes the citizen of Federal Republic of Nigeria, the civil society organization, the NGO and other organs may have a relevant point that will help the system to reform the system better.
They have actually been addressed, they have been confronting violent criminal, armed robbery, kidnapping and other violent crime. So they have been useful. It's a very effective unit, except that some of the officers and men have gone overboard. And that time, after that is checked, the SARS will still be useful to society.
There is anxiety to know what step the police will be taking to fill in the gap for SARS. Now that the Special Anti-robbery Squad has been dissolved, what many Nigerians are eager to know is what strategies the police will be coming up with to ensure that there are no gaps in combating violent crimes such as armed robbery. Sifon SCN, GVC News, Abuja.
Well, let's get more perspectives on this issue as I have joining me Kabiru Adamu, former National Intelligence Agency Chief, now Security Risk Consultant. And in our studio is TVC News Executive Editor Uzona Ononye. Good to have you both on the program this evening. So let's begin with you, Kabiru. Activists will have campaigned against SARS for years, but the recent days of protests, which also gained worldwide attention, has seen the Nigerian police force this afternoon announcing the dissolution of SARS. Is the battle finally over, do you think?
Unfortunately, no. If the battle is to dissolve SARS, Special Anti-robbery Squad, then the battle is over. But that's not why Nigerian youths came out on the street. They came out on the street because of extrajudicial killings by the police, especially by SARS, because of framing, because of extortion, and several other unsavory practices allegedly by the police. And the mere disbanding of that squad would unfortunately not bring an end to all of those unsavory practices. There is a systemic challenge affecting the police. The highlight of that challenge was contained in a report by the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings when she came to Nigeria in 2019 on the invitation of several petitioners against extrajudicial killings in Nigeria. She released a report in September 2019, and that report highlighted several aspects of the Police Act, of existing laws, that allowed that type of heavy-handedness and extrajudicial killings by our security agencies. So in direct response to your question, unfortunately, no. We may see a reprieve, but those systemic issues that allow for those infractions would resurface in a very short time, unfortunately.
Indeed. So, Uzonna, what issues do you think the President or the Inspector General needs to address if the people need to be satisfied that SARS has been dissolved?
First of all, what led all of us to where we are is the conspiracy of silence by the police hierarchy over series and several reports of misconduct against the personnel of various police tactical squads. It's not just it's not restricted to SARS. We find such misdeeds or misconduct across various team, of police service, but always the hierarchy of the police keep quiet when someone dies in detention over certain kinds of circumstance that is not clear. Nothing happens. When a police officer kills somebody without any reason, without any justification, nothing happens except the public make noise over it, and then the person is dragged around a few times and it dies away again. All of these had eroded any atom of confidence from the public on the police force. The public had lost confidence in what the police stands for. And so for the Inspector General of Police to make any reasonable way, inroad into building or rebuilding that confidence, he must match his words with action. Let us begin to see him investigate those criminal activities carried out by the police. You can imagine where policemen accost somebody on the road, take him to the ATM point, he withdraws his money, hands it over to them, and they go away. Isn't that robbery? And if you are out to check robbery or fight robbery and you are involved in some form of robbery, I mean, the entire aim is defeated. So we would like to see the police authorities begin to hold their men accountable for what they do. We also want to see a very clear, sustainable, verifiable process of training that would change the mindset and the mentality of the personnel, because we could end SARS today and a few months after another policing unit will be created for the purpose of combating violent crimes. And the same problem continues because the same kind of individuals populate the police. So we'd like to see clear process of training. We also want to know how the people that join the Nigerian police force are recruited, because if recruitment is faulty, then there is no way you have personnel that will be different from what you recruited from beginning.
Point taken there. So, Kabiru, with all he's said so far, there are concerns, no doubt, on who takes up the role of combating crimes now that the Special Anti-robbery Squad has been dissolved. How do you think this matter should be addressed?
Well, traditional policing is clearly not capable of tackling violent crimes like the types we have in Nigeria. And we can list them, starting from highway robbery, armed robbery, kidnapping, banditry, cattle rustling, name them, all types of, sophisticated crime. So we need tactical units, no doubt about that. And in my co-discussant that mentioned that the SARS is not the only tactical unit. At the last count, I think there were about 14 tactical units within the Nigerian police arrangement. So if we've removed one, and the other 13 can probably come in. But like I mentioned at the beginning, the same challenge that afflicts SARS is the same challenge that would afflict the other 13. So what do we need to do to reduce the arbitrary use of power, the abuse of power, and the extrajudicial application of force by the police? A couple of things. Firstly, the police management needs to understand the concept of managing a tactical unit. As kids, I watched the movie SWAT. A lot of Nigerians find that movie very interesting. And we know the function of that particular police unit, SWAT. Now, that is what a good tactical unit should be like. They should only be called in where there is a need and be using intelligence. In other words, the first responders would usually be the police that would conduct the investigation, and then intelligence-led deployment of that tactical unit, not to go out on the street and have patrols. So that's the first step, no patrol by whatever tactical unit. Let them be intelligence-led. And then the other aspect would have to be with monitoring and evaluation. How do you come up with standard operating procedures for that unit that is transparent? So we know that in the new Police Act, the issue of civil liberties and rights is enshrined in the new Police Act. In other words, a lot of the clauses within that new act goes to protect my and your civil liberties and rights. So how do we insert?
So in effect, from your position, you're in support that perhaps the police reform in this case would help us in this case?
Yes, a police reform is a need. We need a police reform. But beyond a police reform, I'm sorry to say what we need is a security sector governance reform. It is not just the police that unfortunately is afflicted with this particular issue. You just need to look at the report of the the report released during the lockdown, where several security organizations were identified for this particular act of heavy-handedness and abuse of their offices. It's not just the police. So yes, we need a police reform. We also need a security sector governance reform that would make our security organizations more amenable to our democratic disposition.
All right, and that's a fine place to leave it. Kabiru Adamu, we appreciate your insights on the program this evening, and we still have Uzona Ononye with us in the studio to discuss the second segment of the show. After this break, we'll be looking after weeks of a political campaign and a keenly contested election. Governor Rotimi Akeredolu has been re-elected to lead the people of Ondo State for another 4-year term. And after this, we will take a look at the outcome with observers commending the electoral umpire for conducting a largely peaceful exercise. Now, despite the initial fears in some quarters that the All Progressives Congress might not be able to pull it through last Saturday's governorship election due to some internal wranglings that rocked the party before and after the primary election, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of the All Progressives Congress still emerged with a resounding victory. And our correspondent, Ayodilu Zubakun, takes a look at the just concluded poll in Ondo State.
I hereby declare Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as the winner and is hereby returned elected. Thank you.
Barring all odds, the people of Ondo State filed out to re-elect the governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu to pilot the affairs of the state for the next 4 years. The Ondo election was an off-cycle election, just like the recently held Edo election. 17 political parties participated in the election. The exercise turned out to be a three-way race. From the onset, 3 major political parties showed their determination to claim the #1 seats. These parties were more visible during the campaigns across the 18 local governments. The deputy governor to Governor Akeredolu, Agbola Ajayi, after a protracted rift with his principal, announced his resignation from the ruling All Progressive Congress in August 2020, validating earlier speculation about the rift within the ruling party. Although Ajayi sought to clinch the ticket of the main opposition party but lost to Iyitayo Jegede, the former Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General in the state, and the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. The deputy governor later clinched the ticket of the Zenith Labour Party, promoted by the former governor of the state, Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. All the top 3 candidates came from 3 senatorial districts of the states. Going by the result officially announced by INEC, the incumbent governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu from the Northern Senatorial District performed well in the Southern and Central Senatorial Districts by winning 15 local governments. Despite the difficult terrain in the Southern Senatorial Districts, candidates still campaigned and got 36% of the voting strength. The Zenith Labour Party, a new entrant in the state, gathered a total number of 66,963 votes and did not win any local governments. The PDP, with 195,780 votes, won 3 local governments.
11, 12.
The All Progressive Congress had 292,830 votes to win 15 local governments. The total number of registered voters in the state is 1.8 million. Only 591,193 of the 1.4 million PVC holders turned up to vote. This represents 36% of the entire people with PVC. No candidate scores more than 55% of the entire votes. Since 2011, voter turnout has not exceeded 35% in Ondo State, except in 2015, when we had 41% during the presidential election. In 2019, it was 21% for the presidential election and 29.3% in the State House of Assembly elections. Ayodele Zubaku, TVC News.
Well, let's quickly bring in our guest to analyze this issue. Joining me from Akura is our correspondent, Demola Lawrence. And in the studio, we still have TVC News Executive Editor, Uzona Ononye. So let's begin with you now, Demola. Briefly walk us through now the conduct of the electoral process, which saw the emergence of Rotimi Akeredolu as the winner of the polls.
Yeah, thank you very much, Esther. It's been a very wonderful, interesting, and very intriguing election here in Ondo State, where it was very keenly contested among 3 major political parties. But of course, 17 political parties went into the poll. But pre-election, into the election, and of course, post-election, when the election result came out, 3 political parties came out, as top 3. You talk about the winner himself, which is of course from the All Progressive Congress, Rotimi Akeredolu, and of course you talk about the Iyitayo Jegede, who is from the PDP, and the Zenith Labour Party person talking about Ajayi Agbola. So, but leading to the process of the elections, there were times that tensions were very high in the state about the security situation of the state, political infractions, alignments and non-alignments. Who are you going to vote for? Then come the yesterday when the election proper held. You heard from the reports, that just played. 1.8 million people registered were registered voters, but of course, out of them, were 1.4 collected their permanent voters card, which, of course, at the end of the day, 591,000 people voted, cast their vote yesterday. So, but in the process, there were a lot of infractions yesterday. You talked about, when one wants to talk about probably the vote buying of the issue, and of course, you talk about some violence, not too much, but in some very flashpoint areas. And you talk about ballot papers being burned. You talk about, some probably overvoting in some areas. If you look at it holistically, it's been very very interesting because looking at what happened in Edo State, you know, you look at the process and how smooth it was in Edo State. What was INEC do? What did INEC do that made it like that in Edo State? Coming down to Ondo State, what are the things that they were supposed to do? And I think that coming to Ondo State, they were able to look at those potholes and fill them, you know, one after the other. It's a gradual process, but if you look at it all in all, it's a good one compared to what we had in Bayelsa and of course in Kogi 2019 election.
Indeed, it's a gradual process according to our correspondent there from Akure. But you know, looking at this matter issue for that, Uzona, what's your assessment of the electoral process and what areas do you think the electoral commission now needs to work on to ensure we have better elections going forward?
Primarily, the process is a journey, and like everyone had said, there's an improvement. Yes, there are still areas that we still need to work on, but following previous elections to get to this point, one can comfortably and conveniently say that this one is relatively more credible, more transparent than others. Yes, the issue of vote buying had become more prominent now, but in the past we know that the issue of ballot box snatching and stuffing was the order where the vote of the people do not even count. You could stand on the line, on the queue for as long as you wish, cast the ballot. As soon as the ballot box gets filled, somebody comes out from somewhere, shoots in the air, everybody disperses, they exchange the ballot box with the one that they had prepared earlier, and then nullifies whatever the people had done there. So we had gone beyond that. Now it's a case of people being induced, but that's an agreement that people's vote is counting now. Let's take it further. I would like to see INEC work on introducing electronic voting, because with that, interference by politicians and other people on the decision of electorates will be minimal, very, very minimal. So I would like to see that us begin to try that. Yes, it's going to have issues. It's going to, like when we introduced the card reader, yeah, there were issues, but all of us know now that wherever there's issues or problems with the card reader, it's going to be very, very isolated, unlike the experience of 2015. And so we would like to see the introduction of electronic voting system so that we take it up from there.
All right, and that's a fine place to leave it, gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our correspondent from Akure, Demola Lawrence, and TVC News editor, Uzona Onoye. It's a pleasure to have you both on the program this evening. And that's all for this episode of Newsweek. You can follow us on our social media platforms for updates. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the handle at TVC News NG. You can also get details of all the stories we're reporting on our website, tvcnews.tv. Until the next one, I am Esther Mokwariola. Bye for now.